Okay. Okay, great. Hey, everybody. Welcome. This is Molly from Mind Body Solutions. We'll be getting the show going in about 5 minutes or so, but I just wanted to pop in and say hello. Glad you guys are here. Um, in the meantime, just get comfortable on your mat or your chair or however you're going to be with us today, and take a look at our organizational video. We thought this would be a good way to remind you of who we are and what we do. And when the video ends, we'll be back and we'll be going live. So settle in and thanks for being here. Mind Body Solutions is a nonprofit that began as a story of one. Paralyzed as a teen, our founder Matthew Sanford started practicing yoga at age 25. He learned that it mattered how he lived in his body. Nearly 3 decades later, this vision has become an innovative educational center. There is a different way to live in your body, one where muscular strength and coordination aren't as paramount. This way is expansive and powerful and life-affirming. Everyone hungers for a better way to live. It awaits you in the simple practice of connecting mind and body. Mind Body Solutions is dedicated to sharing this insight with everyone. We're people, both abled and disabled. We're yoga students and teachers. We're caregivers and donors. We come from all walks of life to offer connection, support, insight, and hope. Our weekly adaptive yoga classes serve people living with physical and intellectual disabilities, our veterans, the elderly, victim survivors of sexual assault, and so many more. We've pioneered breakthrough approaches to helping those nearing end of life, those living with trauma, PTSD, and eating disorders. We train thousands of yoga teachers worldwide how to teach people of all abilities. We've broken through into healthcare and trained thousands of healthcare professionals at leading organizations. We serve humanity, one touch at a time. At Mind Body Solutions, people come together and learn. We go out and train others, and slowly but surely, the world becomes a better place. Come find us. Hey everyone, welcome. I'm really glad you guys are all here. My name is Molly Bachman. I'm an adaptive yoga teacher and the development director at Mind Body Solutions. And I'm glad you're here. Welcome to our 7th annual virtual yogathon and our very first virtual yogathon kickoff. We are in for a big experiment today, and I'm confident that we're going to have a lot of fun doing what we do every year to start this yogathon, which is to gather our community together to showcase the best of our humanity through the practice of yoga and just coming together. It's really what we're all about here at Mind Body Solutions. Today, we're going to do a little bit of that yoga practice, and we're also going to have some conversation and some chats with a few of our friends, some teachers and friends and students of Mind Body Solutions. So that I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great big experiment. But before we begin, I want to say a big thank you to all of you who have signed up to start your yogathon practice today. In joining us in this yogathon, you've committed to a 7-day practice with purpose. You're going to promise to do yoga, to share yoga, to help others, and it's going to be a great week. I think we've got some special things planned. Hopefully, you all got your email this morning with a nice practice, centering practice that Matthew shared with us. So anyway, before we begin, I just want to say thank you. Part of the reason that we're here is also to raise essential money for our adaptive yoga program. In this crazy time, we still need to raise $50,000 to support the good work that we do here. So whether you're doing your yogathon practice and raising money on your own, or if you're here and you feel like you have the ability to donate today, we'd really love it. And if you want to know more about our work, visit our website at mindbodysolutions.org. So Just an announcement. We do have to raise $50,000, but I'm proud to say we're already a third of the way there. So I feel like we're going to have a really great week of supporting the really good work that we do here. So buckle up. Here we go. Thanks for being with us in this great experiment. And with that, I'd like to introduce the founder of Mind Body Solutions, Matthew Sanford. And I think he'll be popping up soon. Hey.
Hey, everybody. I am so glad you decided to join us. It's a crazy life, a crazy world. I want to remind you that our mission is to try help people transform trauma, loss, and disability, but also their caregivers. And because there is no one person or one community that ends up helping people, it takes all of us. And so I want you today, we're going to emphasize both our adaptive yoga class and the impact on the entire community too of our adaptive yoga program. Of course, I would be remiss not to talk about the virus that shall not be named. I don't call it by its first name, not because I don't respect it, but because, like Harry Potter, I don't want to charm too much of the name. So one of the things that's so interesting, I think, about the situation we're in is that remember, we transform trauma, loss, and disability. And one of the things that's happening for people as they're having to recede out of their life and stay at home, and I want you to be staying home and staying safe and doing all the things that are smart that we need to do to take care of each other. But as you withdraw from your life and some of the adjustment to that, that is a form of loss, right? And it's like because there's a change, and all of a sudden you kind of have more time, but it's weird time and all these things. And so, but in a way, you're withdrawing back towards home, literally and figuratively. And when that happens, when there is that kind of that centering that happens, then that's both a loss and an opportunity. And one of the core insights of Mind Body Solutions is the transformation of the energy of loss, not to deny it, but to realize that there are simultaneous possibilities as you head closer to home. So one of the themes I want to run through today is what it's like when you go closer to the wheel, to the hub of the wheel, closer to home, and realize changes, loss. Yeah, our lives are changing, and some version of life will get back to normal. And that's an analogy that is especially true for people living with trauma, loss, and disability. So one of the things that we try to do at Mind Body Solutions is we strive to not just quote help people, which I think is only a very small part of what we do. I think that we transform as we're helping, as the changes and the realization that at first it may feel like loss, but something else starts to happen, a deepening can happen, and that's at the heart of Mind Body Solutions. I want to introduce in a second here Kevin Kling. Now, Kevin is interesting for me for a lot of reasons. One of my favorite people in the world. We teach together with Body Mind Story. But more than that, Kevin is a world famous storyteller. He's an author. He is able to do something that I've rarely ever seen, and I admire, and I wish I had more of it. Is to be able to combine wisdom and humor, and that is such a rare, powerful thing. One of the things he says in our body mind story workshop is that once a community laughs together, they're a community, that it's a form of bonding. And I think that one of the really core insights here too that Kevin has helped in a way shape some of Mind Body Solutions is that we want everyone to do yoga, but as we say in our adaptive yoga trainings and our adaptive yoga classes, yoga is the third most important thing that happens. And that there is way more than that, and stories are part of the transformation, so that part of the stories that we tell ourselves are also a crucial part of the transformation that is yoga. And I want you all to be thinking too about what story you're going to come out of the pandemic with. How are you going to transform? How are you going to re-choose your life and how you decide to spend your time? These are all part of what it is to heal trauma, loss, and disability. Because in this situation we are with the virus that will not be named, we're not going to have everything go back to normal. Things are always going to be different. That's one of the core insights of trauma. And it doesn't mean that things have shifted, doesn't mean that things are bad. And that as you pay attention, as you stay closer to home, you start to realize new possibilities. So with that, I want to introduce Kevin Kling to start us off with a couple of stories. He too is an adaptive yoga student and does so much with a lot. Kevin, start us out.
Hey, Matthew. How's it going?
Dang, I don't know. I'm actually nervous. I'm a techno idiot, man. So please, God, let it all go. Let it all work well. But it's good.
Well, when you say balance, I always say, I got a buddy who lives in a small town in North Carolina, and he always says, in his town, there's a town drunk and the mayor, and every few years they shift positions. So, I want to start off with something we talk about in class, the class that we do together. It's an African saying that until the lion tells the story, the hunter will always be the hero. And I remember in our class, one of the women that told a story said it so beautifully. Her first sentence before a story was, "If you don't tell your story, it will tell you." And I really believe that. Okay, so I'm going to tell everybody, when I was a kid, I'm going to hold up my arm. When I was a kid, I have 4 fingers on this side and no thumb. So when I work with kids, I say, after the show, if you want to high 5, you're out of luck, but we can high 4 all day. And I remember when I was a kid, there were 2 kinds of fairy tales. Fairy tales I hated and fairy tales I hadn't heard yet. Because it always ended up bad for the guy with the disability, right? I mean, Snow White trades in 7 perfectly good little ones for one big one. The Ugly Duckling starts out as he thinks he's a duck. And then all of a sudden, he finds out he's a swan. And I loved it when he thought he was a duck, this huge uber duck. And then they find out he's a swan. He's like, what does that do for me, a kid with a disability? Hope a ship of aliens lands and goes, no, you're really one of us. So I never liked fairy tales. But then my grandmother said, Kevin, fairy tales can go any way you want them to go. And so this is one of the stories my grandma would tell me. And it's back in the days when pots and pans could talk, which indeed they still do. And there was a guy who would go to the river every day and fill 2 pots with water and bring them home. Well, one day a small crack developed in one of the pots. And as time went on, that crack widened until by the time the man got home, all the water had leaked out of that pot. Well, one day the pot turned to the man and says, look, every day you take me to the river and every day the water leaks out. Please replace me with another pot. And the man turned to the pot and said, look down the trail. And the pot looked down the trail, and on the side of the trail with the pot that didn't have a crack, it was craggy and rocky and barren. But on the side of the path with the pot with the crack, wildflowers grew. And the man said, every day you water those flowers, every day you make my difficult journey beautiful. I think I'll keep you. And those were the stories I grew up with. And so I think that's why I became a writer. Mary Oliver said, it's not the weight, it's how we carry it. Johnny Cash said, talent is God-given, but our style comes from our limitations. And this reminds me of when I was teaching one time. And after part of the show, I said, okay, everybody, if you want a high 4, come on up. And this little girl comes up and I go, okay, high 4. No, she said, high 2. She had 2 fingers on one hand. So we high 2'd, and afterwards I asked her teacher how she's doing. And she said, let me tell you. She said, okay, it was November. And she said, it's Thanksgiving. And we're doing that part where you draw around your hand and you make a turkey. And she said, all the kids did. And she said, now put your other hand down and you'll have 2 turkeys facing each other. So all the kids did their drawings and they turned them in. And she's going through them. And she came to that little girl's. And there was one turkey with all of its feathers and one turkey with just 2 feathers. And she went, oh man, I wonder if that's going to hurt her feelings if I put this up. So she told the little girl, you can redo your drawing and use the same hand for both turkeys. So the little girl redid her drawing, 2 turkeys with 2 feathers on each side. When I was a kid, I felt the same way. I felt my arm was special. And our doctor, Dr. Tippy would say, he would say he was going to fix my arm. I said, don't fix my arm. That's the last thing I want. It makes me special. So Dr. Tippy made a deal with me. He said, okay, I won't fix your arm, but we're just going to make it work better for you. And that's Dr. Tippy set the bar really high for doctors to come. Doctors, teachers, parents. because he taught me that we're on this journey together. Where do our stories converge? I mean, I'm not seen as a collection of symptoms. I know my story has been heard, and I know then that I'm not alone. And thank you, Mind Body, for getting that.
I love that his name is Dr. Tippy. Man,
I know.
that's one of those you can't make up. I want to say you made up that name, and I'll bet you not. That truth is sometimes more real than anything
My
else.
other doctor was Dr. Bonesock.
No, come on. Now that's a lie, Kevin. There's no way.
That's absolutely true.
Bonesock.
Dr. Bonesock and Dr. Tippy.
The story, man. All right. Well, appreciate it, and also know that what Kevin is saying is right, that we do belong to each other. And there's another story you sometimes tell about a healer in Australia where can you just quick tell that story quick?
Oh, yeah. I meant to tell this. There, a woman in Australia, a social worker came out to help her, and she told him, she said, if you're here to help me, go home. But if you're here for yourself, you can stay. And she knew that you need to be on the journey together. That is crucial.
Yeah, and I want to get that. That's one of the heartfelt, true Norse of Mind Body Solutions, is that one of the things as living as a paraplegic that I don't always like to think of the culture as having to help me. I don't mind being helped. But one of the things that's so crucial at Mind Body Solutions, we don't just teach or give yoga to people with disability, right? Or in trauma loss and disability. We don't just do it because they deserve it or they're, they which they do, right? But we do it because it transforms us. That the relationship between us and the people we serve is one of equals. It's not, oh, I just learn from my students every day. It's deeper than that. The transformation that occurs, if you really want to be of service of people, you have to be on the same level they are and find humanity together. And that's what I love about that story, is that if someone comes to fix you, that is not what anybody needs. If you want to be with me on the journey, if you want to come along, that's what it is. And that's what I love about that story. And I also love the little girl. I love the little girl that sees the world her way, doesn't fight about the world, doesn't fight it outward, but is like literally, there's a resiliency also born of innocence. And one of the things that happens with trauma, loss, and disabilities, you think you lose your innocence. You think you don't fit in all the way. And it's not true. That girl reshapes the world. And by the way, I would probably rather live in the world where their turkeys have two fingers, because that's the world where you know that you're okay and you have your own resiliency. I just that's one of those stories, and I think you do a lot of teaching with young people, right?
Every once in a while, yeah, I love it. They're always coming up with something.
So at Mind Body Solutions, I'm going to let you go, Kevin. At Mind Body Solutions, though, we have innocence, we have follow through, and we are a little engine that could, right? And that's why we're trying to switch this to virtual today, but it's like, because we still got to raise money at a time where I know it's hard. All right, Kevin, I really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Yep, thank you. So I want to switch now, because I'm about to introduce one of what I think is a wonderful story of Mind Body Solutions. And, it's the idea that you're not just teaching, quote, the adaptive yoga student. The McRae family, which they're here, there's JD over on the left, Michael in the middle, and his mom, Julie. They started at Mind Body Solutions a few years ago, but it was for a very different reason. JD, one that appears to be the father here, right? On the left, right? He brought his 89-year-old mom. Her name was Debbie, right?
Yep, great.
Yep, and that they started coming because as a dutiful son, he wanted his mom to move around more. They come into a Mind Body Solutions class for the mom, who, by the way, turned out to be, those yoga teachers of that class, one of their favorite students ever, right? And all of a sudden he looks around and goes, you guys also teach people with disabilities too? And it was like, yep. And all of a sudden Michael starts coming. And if you didn't notice, Michael's the face of this year's campaign. And your email on the homepage, it's Michael's face that comes in. So that's a big deal. And so with the McRae family, and then it turns out that now JD and Julie come to my quote traditional class on Thursdays. So for the McRae family and Mind Body Solutions, it's a 3-generational affair. And that's what is the true impact of Mind Body Solutions, is that it's way more than just teaching yoga. There are things and there are insights. JD is going to be interviewed in our YouTube channel, The Hub, which you're watching on YouTube Live. We're going to interview JD because JD himself's got a remarkable story. Not only is he, quote, a caregiver, whatever that means, but he also has had open hearts. He's had a heart transplant. We're going to be talking to him about what that means to have someone else's heart, to have a hold up in life. Like, everyone's got a story. And that's what we're trying to showcase at Mind Body Solutions, especially on our YouTube channel, The Hub. We're going to have a whole product line of our stories, putting a face on trauma, loss, and disability, and changes so everyone can know. Because so many of us, whether we show it or not, we feel like we don't fit into the culture. Like I like to say about Mind Body Solutions, we're an island of misfit toys that fit in the same room together. And that's what the adaptive yoga classes are. So I want to start out with you, Michael. Talk to me a little bit about what you like coming to class for. Like, what the hell?
The people and getting stretched out.
The people and getting stretched out. So
Yeah.
Michael lives with cerebral palsy, and his arms have a hard time going straight. It'll be interesting in a little while when we teach standing poses, right? And you like the people. You don't even mind me. I tease Michael all the time, by the way. It's part of how I roll with Michael. But the students too, the teachers, like which?
Yes.
Both. You're saying it's both.
Yeah.
I don't know. You seem to give me a lot. In a way, the McRaes for me are a handful, and they're wonderful. They're a little bit of both. And Michael's right there in the center of that. I'd like to quick ask Julie and JD, what has finding Mind Body Solutions as a community meant to your family?
Well, it's been wonderful for all of us, as you say, with Debbie included, just because it's so welcoming. There is no pity. There is no, oh my gosh, you can do this so well and I'm so bad at it. Everybody's just there to love and support themselves and others and do it to the best of their ability. And plus, Michael is better physically and emotionally.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
totally.
Michael, would you agree to that, or is that just your parents' insight?
I agree.
Okay, that's
We're the
awesome.
ones that thaw his arms out every morning.
Yeah. And what about for you, JD?
Well, Mind Body Solutions is, from our family, it's the vehicle for us all to integrate together. When you have a disability, it's hard to find activities that allow you as the disabled to share experiences with non-disabled. And with my mom, with Michael, with myself, and Julie, we are sharing an experience all together as one, one community, one soul, if you will. And so Mind Body Solutions to me is bringing your body and your mind in harmony and expanding it so that you're really bringing the universe in. And to do that with your family and to do that with your disabled child is it is such a gift. And then it goes out to the community of the class.
Right.
It's the same thing with the class. We just love them and we help work with them back and forth. And
That's what the whole goal is. Yeah.
This is how life, if it was perfect, would work.
JD is like a jokester all the time, and he just made me tear up. And he said it. Both of you said things that make me know why we do this.
Yep.
Right.
It's priceless, totally priceless.
And I hope for the yoga teachers out there, going to meet one in a little bit, Michael, that you get some of the great things we do as we as we help, because the story from Kevin, the transformation happens in both directions. It happens not just for Michael, it happens for the family. Your dynamic and how you interact with each other changes, but it's also for us too. And what we're trying to help other teachers around the country replicate is the type of community that we've built over the last 20 years. But it's so, that you never know. When you guys first walked in the door, we had no idea the multidimensional level of stories that were going to start coming out of this, and also the effects, Michael, of I can tell right now. To me, you sit up, wait when the first time I saw you, you sit up straight, you seem more balanced. All these things, I can actually. It's a strange phenomena. I can see you better, right? Which is funny. What you don't understand is that often people with disability, especially when their bodies don't quite go the way other people's bodies, that people, not only do people not look at people directly enough, and Michael gets enough eye contact, but it's also, you get so used to it, Michael, that I've had this with other students, that it's hard to see. And all of a sudden your presence is more, not all of a sudden, over the last couple of years, more alive, more direct, more connected. You belong in the room at all times, and it's not just an intellectual thing. Like, there is a change, Michael, that I see in how you show up in space, which, whether or not he can do yoga poses, we're going to do some yoga poses in the class that he'll be able to do and not do. That's part of what happens. And the thing is, it doesn't just happen for Michael. It happens for all students of yoga, right? We've been emphasizing stories so far, but remember, we're here today about the adaptive yoga class because the adaptive yoga class is a generator of stories of transformation. And Michael's is one of them, McRae's is one of them, and we're just honored to have him as part of our team. I'd like to now transition out to talk about Michael. So this is and the good thing is the McRae's will be part of the adaptive yoga class. You'll be seeing him the whole time. So we'll see you guys in a little bit. Right?
Thank you.
Bye.
So now we're bringing on Michael Amy, another Michael. We're Michael squared on this year. Michael Amy is a trainee of ours, but also he's been taking a lot of our trainings, but he's been really remarkable at being able to bring it into the world on his own. He's trained as a PT that works with kids. He's a fantastic student. He's also one of our top fundraisers for Kiss My Asana. All these things happen. And to me, what we're going to hear from Michael is what it means for our story to work. Like, when we go for funding from from foundations and things, they always say, well, how are you growing? What's your story of replication? What's your expansion story? And we always give this answer that more formal money, like grants, don't get. It's like, we have a very organic strategy of expansion because we find incredibly talented people to go do the work in their community, and also, as you find with Michael, out of the country and around the country. So Michael, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's an honor, and I'm feeling honored and grateful to be here. And for the Mind Body tribe, it's this journey started about 7 years ago when I first found you, and it was being in the school setting for 20 plus years, working with students with disability. And what I was experiencing in my own yoga practice after completing a teacher training with Francois, and asking how do I bring this to the students I work with, and how does yoga become more accessible? And then your book shows up.
Right.
And then I think I was a chapter into your book, and then I'd signed up for level 1, and then I've been back ever since. So every year I'm back for at least once or twice a year. So it really is about how it shifted my perspective on what it is to be a physical therapist, what it is to be a yoga teacher, what it is to be to work with people. And it's the ability to continue to grow and evolve, and learn, and share the humanity.
Yeah, because that's part of it. I mean, we train a lot of healthcare professionals too outside of our adaptive yoga program, but all of our insights actually come from our adaptive yoga program. There's something, as you know, you've been working with disability and kids the whole time, because you get innocence and disabilities. There's something transformative in the dynamic.
Right.
And if you just think as a teacher or a caregiver that you're just there to help, you're missing the point. They're helping you too, and they're transforming you.
Yeah.
And I feel like in watching you over the years, like that's part of what was like such a relief when you came to Mind Body Solutions. You got to further and transform the depth of the connection between caregiver and patient, between teacher and student.
It was truly like coming home and feeling, again, you talk about coming back to the hub of the wheel, and that's what it was for me. It was coming back to those, to the core, and then feeling how, through the sensations of yoga for myself, and then how to share that with others, and watching that, that reciprocity that happens between.
Because that's part of the key here, is that the way that we teach both our adaptive yoga students and the people that are trying to teach and or care for people with trauma, loss, and disability, is it always needs to start from inside to out, from the sensations and the caregiver out, right? And that's a crucial, and that's also where the playing field gets leveled and the humanity starts to really transform both, is when people can both show up, or everyone can show up and be vulnerable and resilient, vulnerable and powerful, vulnerable and transformative, right? Vulnerability is not something that we should all be afraid to have. It's actually part of the preconditions of realization. But I want to talk a little bit about what you've been doing with it, because you've been doing so much with trainings we've had, and I might chirp in a little bit because Michael works with us on a whole bunch of different things. But so Michael, you talk a little bit first about what you've started in the Rochester, New York area.
It's taken time. I mean, I think after the first couple of trainings we did, it was like, okay, I'm gonna, you feel really gung ho and you're gonna get this started in your own community, and then you realize that it takes time, and I think it takes time for a reason. So if the support of Endless Highway, which is a nonprofit here in Rochester, and the support of Central Rock Gym, which helps provide space for an accessible class that I've been able to start on a weekly basis, and I have the best students that show up, and they show up every week, and trying to continue that in this crisis and do online stuff. But the weekly classes have been really transformational for both myself as a teacher and I think for the students, and just sharing with the community what Mind Body Solutions is all about.
And also the one thing I want to point out here is, just so people notice that, like, what Michael has done in Rochester is exactly what we're trying to help this is our expansion plan do, is develop partnerships. Things do take time. You don't get just to open a door and have a zillion people with trauma loss disability show up, because there's a lot of hurdles for them to come to an adaptive yoga class. But the fact that he's networked in with a nonprofit, got the community to help the class happen, is able to, he brought 30 people I was supposed to be out there in Rochester, New York earlier this month and teaching, and he brought 30 people into this call, I hope, into this today, and they're joining Kiss My Asana in the way that they can, and that's part of what it is. But also that you've been able to network and not be afraid to have your own voice and talk about the benefits. This is all part of the transformation that we're trying to grow in other people, and give them the confidence to turn and do the work. The other thing, you've also done some traveling, right? So you teach an adaptive yoga module in other teacher trainings.
Right. I've been able to take pieces of that to Iceland, to another family in Iceland. Another yoga family in Iceland. And I was supposed to be in Brussels a few weeks ago to do the same there, but unfortunately, that will have to be pushed till I think next year. But
things will come back. And also he came to teach with me too. We did this kind of crazy presentation, 2-day presentation to a neuroscience department who studied trauma and the effects on the human brain with Dr. Ruth Lanius. It was kind of funny. Michael did such a job. She tried to hire him to move it to a place in Canada. So it's like one of those things where The other thing that Michael's done from a networking point of view, in some presentation he gave, he got approached by Disabled Sports USA, and he turned them on to us because they were looking to roll out programming within VAs around the country. And so they contacted us. So we're in the middle of a project that is teaching mind-body techniques to healthcare providers within the VA. So this is how it works. It's organic. We get talented people to start showing up that are willing to go out in the community, and it starts spreading. And then we also get to support each other during and while that's happening. So it's another example of how, we're okay at Mind Body Solutions. We like to think of ourselves as the Velvet Underground. If you don't know who the Velvet Underground is, they're a band. Lou Reed was in it early in the 70s. They say only 20,000 people ever bought any of the albums by the Velvet Underground, but they're so influential, they turned into 20,000 bands. And to me, for us, Michael is one of the bands that's out there doing the work, doing it every day, coming back. We get ideas from each other. We do all these things together, and it keeps going forward. And finally, I want to close, Michael, with the fact that I think MBS doesn't want to take too much credit for this, but I think that he might have fallen deeply in love with another one that came to study. So
I think that's probably one of the highlights. It is the highlight of coming back year after year. Yeah,
it's from the people. So
there's transformation that happens. That's a tough one to top. So
so I'm not saying if you come to Mind Body Solutions, you'll necessarily find a soulmate, but it could happen.
It could happen.
Everything happens with Mind Body Solutions. So I appreciate that time and all your work, Michael, and all the collaborations that are coming forward, and the people that came from I would have been with you this last month. Thanks for showing up. And this is how it grows. Like, we are also in a partnership with the University of Buffalo. They're here today too. Some students from there in the accessibility program, because that was someone that studied with us. But we're thinking about it this next year. If we do it virtual again, we hope we can draw in people all around in colleges around the country in the disability services around the country. So this is how it goes. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
Continue to do the work, and thanks for being here. All right, so now we go to our bread and butter in a little bit, which is an adaptive yoga class, or we call it all humanities class. And what's interesting about trying to teach this today is that I know a lot of you that are watching this quote our traditional students. And by the way, I hate to tell everybody that this is kind of a vogue thing to say a little bit, but it's been true forever. You're only temporarily abled, and everyone in their life has trauma, loss, and disability. It's the aging guarantees it. And so, I'm going to teach an all humanities class. I know some of you are going to teach a little bit of standing poses, maybe some dog poses, some seated stuff. And so I want to make sure everyone stays safe. If you're an adaptive yoga student, don't do anything that's off balance. Don't, know that yoga doesn't happen the more poses you do. And this is one of the core insights of our classes, is that yoga actually is an inside to out process that is a deepening, and the outer form of the poses are not the only doorway to the realization. And that's one of the big things we try to pass on and empower our students to know, that yoga can happen right near the center, right near the hub of the wheel. But I want to give you a glimpse now into what an adaptive yoga class, I'm going to try to paint it with words. And this is a description of an adaptive yoga class that is in my book that's yet to be published. It's looking for a publisher. And this is this is me painting a picture of an adaptive yoga class, because you're only going to be able to watch a couple students while I'm teaching. When we're in person together, we usually have a room full of between 100 and 200 people all working together. So we're going to be doing it at home. But here's what an adaptive yoga class looks like. This is chapter 14 in the book that is yet to come into the world all the way. Some of the best moments of living I have ever experienced occurred in an adaptive yoga class. These classes are an expression of the heart of yoga and the very best of our shared humanity. They have also been my greatest teacher, both of the transcendent metaphysical potential of the mind-body relationship and what it means for human beings to profoundly connect across differences, and today, spaces and time. My yoga practice has showed me things about the human metaphysics, and I needed to share these insights. I now realize that this was the story I told myself for the courage to step into a larger version of who I was becoming. It's ironic that the impulse to help others is what gave me the courage to step into the world. I apparently needed to assume that someone else was lacking and needed my help before I was ready to awaken. Helping the needy is not a story for the needy. It is a story for a person who needs to find his or her heart. I now see that people teaching what people living with trauma-lasting disability was not the culmination of my yoga study. In some sense, it was the beginning. Very quickly, I realized that I didn't know nearly enough. Imagine the person to your left is a quadriplegic, a former marathon runner and ballroom dancer who has a chronic sore in his tailbone and cannot get out of his electric wheelchair. Next to him is a woman living through the advanced stages of multiple sclerosis who barely has enough breath to speak, let alone move her limbs, and decided a couple years back, the day after her son died of a drug overdose, that the only place she wanted to be was in our adaptive yoga class. Next to her is a man with cerebral palsy who gets around an electric wheelchair, is quite heavy, leans way over to his right, is extremely articulate, and says that he comes to a yoga class because for 5 minutes he gets to feel human. Next to him is a woman who is nearing the final stages of ALS, is losing her ability to speak and swallow, can still move her limbs a little, and is accompanied by a profoundly loving husband who is losing the love of his life. Next to them is a 40-something woman who is a special education teacher at a Montessori school, avid hiker, kayaker, and photographer, who has been stricken with a progressive, unknown neurological condition that puts her in a wheelchair most of the time and unable to control the spastic movements of over half her body. I think you get the picture. These classes are made up of as many as 16 such stories in a room, 12 times a week. Now imagine that there are also supposedly 8 non-disabled students in the room. They are sprinkled throughout the entire during the initial centering that begins the class. They are not helpers, they are participants. Yes, as an assistant might aid a person to help them hold up their arms, but both must ground through their feet. Both must lift their chests. The yoga pose travels through both the student and the assistant simultaneously. The conduit is human contact. The experience is shared at a level that transcends words. The sparks of this sharing makes everyone know that they are healing. Despite the appearance of unequal ability and disability, the playing field is level. Everyone opens, everyone feels. The relief is tangible. Everyone in that room, including me as a student, the combination of shared humanity, of vulnerability and hope, of transformation and truth sets us all free. As the teacher of this class, there is no way I can know everything about every single medical condition. There is no one single yoga pose that works for all these stories at once. In this situation, the roles are reversed. Rather than the artist putting his inspiration on the canvas is reforming the artist. This is what happened to me. The experience of teaching these classes reshaped me. I could feel in my bones the depth of what I had uncovered, the depth of what it truly means to show up in a room as one of many that suffer, as existential equals, and people who share the same fate. Everyone is becoming disabled. Everyone is aging and shares the inward ache of loss within the mind-body relationship. Everyone. Our life arc guarantees it. I am you. You are me. Connection. So with that, we're going to start an adaptive yoga class, teach it for a while, see how it goes. Everyone work within your limits. Remember, yoga doesn't happen the farther you get into the pose. Yoga is about the transformation of inward to out. And remember, what we're looking for is what we believe is more subtle perception, more inward awareness is what's universal in asana. And so sit up straight and tall, everybody. Whether you're on the floor because you're on your yoga mat, whether you're sitting in a chair, right? Find whatever position you can center in. So have a seat. Allow. One of the things that I think is happening in a yoga class, especially in the beginning part, is that you, by getting quieter and sitting in more grounded position, you are getting access to a part of your human consciousness that you usually don't. The intangible part. I believe that the quiet, silent emptiness that all of us carry is what brings us home. It's not just loss, it's also home. And that the inward quiet emptiness that we all carry brings you home, but it's the change in the movement that can bring you life. And so the interplay of both is at the core of every yoga pose. All right, so sit up straight and tall. Allow. You have to let in the parts of unity and human consciousness, allowing what you feel now to not judge it, but more than that, to sense it. You're trying to move in a yoga pose from mental awareness to felt sensations. So locate yourself in the room. Feel your base where you're sitting on the floor, whether it's your wheelchair or a chair or on the ground. And feel and allow in the whole room, especially what's behind you. The unseen part of you is your most resilient, right? It's not just vulnerable, it's strength. So let it in. The space around you, whether it's filled, as we're all staying at home more, the space around you is supportive, open to what's behind you. Now start to feel your base. The feet on the foot pedals, your sits bones on the floor. Keep allowing, and then start to distinguish the asana. Every pose begins and ends in relief. So the asana takes what you are, the sum total of your sensations right now, and starts to add a level of discipline, right? So feel your sitting bones in the very low abdomen start to lift up, right? So up through the core as something is going down. Multi-directional movement is going to be at the heart, and one of our universal principles of adaptive yoga is that you have to start practicing moving in multiple directions at once, something that so much of us take for granted. So you lift up the core and you broaden across the chest. But it's important you broaden also across the back ribs, front and back. Don't forget the parts you cannot touch and cannot see. They're all part of you. So as you're feeling your base and extending up, broadening, lifting the chest, broadening across the back ribs, start to strengthen that by making more of a connection between the side waist and side armpit chest. So you're lifting your chest, right? You're broadening it, but also broaden across the space right here on the underside of the side armpit chest. Make that space go across as your chest is lifting. This should give you a grounding sensation too. So notice your breath through each nostril, into each lung. Turns out that prana, life force, follows conscious more than it follows breath. Keep your mind in your sitting bones, your feet. Be aware of the entire vessel as much as you can, and let the breath touch everywhere because your awareness is there. So you're trying to assume a position that allows you to feel more and more connected. When you're ready, and if you can, bring your hands into prayer, right? But in a way, hands together don't matter as much, right? It's whether, yep, I like that, Michael. Now kind of look straight ahead, Michael, a little bit, yep. So you're also trying to add symmetry to the centering. So you're not only feeling the breath in each nostril, into each lung, but now you've got an extra field of reference in the palms, right? And you let that bisect you. Now, you don't press your hands together too hard. You do it as if they're attracted to each other. But now, from the center of your palm, whether you can open your fingers or not, Michael, right? I want you to broaden the skin in your palms and watch what that does, and watch what you feel, right? Maybe your elbows get slightly heavy. You want to work your hands to help you lift your chest. Feel your sitting bones, the outsides of your feet. Notice the symmetry of your manifestation, and take a couple more breaths. Let go of your day. Prepare your mind to do yoga. Good. And then release, put your hands on your thighs, palms up. But I want the McRae's, JD, and Michael, will you stay like that? So lift up your sternum more, drop your chin down. One of the things as yogis, you want to stay humble to your experience, even when you're willfully doing poses. So the lift in the chest is more of a little bit more of a fire action, right? But the drop of the chin is humility too. So you have life force coming through your core. Stay humble to it. One of the lines I say in the for those of you that signed up that are getting the everyday practices is that it's the role of the yogi to be humble to their experience, to let the experience be the teacher, not how well you can do the poses. Raise your head up with closed eyes. Open your eyes. So this thing about it being a family. So I like seeing about what everyone look up and look at Michael and JD and Julie, like they're connected here. And one of the things I wish for all of you is the ability to share the center with other people, right? So what I like about the alignment between JD and Michael here, right, and the grounding that Julie's providing is that they're all hitting a place of shared interaction, right? That's what brings families together, right? All right. So now I want to pay a little more attention to your breath. And so one of the things that I think is remarkable, so if you're sitting on the floor in simple cross legs like Amy, changing lock on your legs, right? Just because I'm being ridiculously and almost goofy, Julie, go to the other side of Michael. So you go on his other side. So you sit the other way, right? Right? All right. So one of the core things I believe that the life force that we have comes more through our spines, like through the spinal cord, through the bones, right? The brain organizes stuff, but your life force, your animations comes from the center outward, right? The center outward. And if you think about that, you got your spine there, but your whole nervous system comes out of there. Your heart's in there close. It's setting out the vascular system. Life force goes from the center outward. What I think is very interesting in yoga poses is that you're trying to figure out the unchanging part of your poses, and even when your body's moving, it's going to be crucial for balance. It's part of what Michael's realized, and Zai, who has some trouble with balance, is that the center core of your being is the unchanging part. All right. So I want to just take a couple moments to feel what it's like to breathe into your spine more, right? Because the intersection between your breath and your spine is perhaps the most important integration and intersection in your whole existence, right? And so think of your rib cage rather than just like the framing of a house. Think of your rib cage as the fingers of your spine reaching around to caress your breath. And so I want you to take a couple breaths, lift your sternum up, because if you this is in every yoga pose pretty much, if you lift your sternum, it spreads awareness to the whole body, right? If you drop your chest, you can feel how it retracts. But so as you're with a lifted chest, without straining, I want you to feel the inhalation, how the breath goes right into the rib cage, which goes right into the spine. Then I want you to exhale. And I want you to now amplify the fact that your ribs are also moving and it's bringing energy right into your spine. So inhale, and then exhale as if I'm pushing on the inner edge of each shoulder blade. So exhale more overtly from your ribs. So inhale and feel the expansion, and then exhale as if the back ribs are coming forward. And I know, because I've done this a lot, that when you breathe like this, the lifted chest gets support. So you inhale and you expand, and the exhalation kind of comes underneath the inhalation and pushes forward and helps the chest lift, which distributes your life force through your limbs. Now imagine someone that can't straighten their arms, like they still need to feel dynamic sensation, right? So inhale, feel the expansion, And then exhale, and notice that your abdomen comes slightly back when you exhale from the back ribs, and energy awareness goes down through your sitting bones and up through the top of your head, right? That your spine actually expands. So there's a fundamental interplay in yoga poses, which is the inhalation expands like the spine, like right out from the center outward. You get an expansive feeling and a feel of spaciousness. And then you exhale and extend. So this is going to be an interplay that's in virtually every yoga pose. And you're breathing because it moves the emptiness in you, and your body then can extend it, right? So inhale, exhale from the back ribs, feel a sense of the expansion and the extension back and forth in a rhythm. Couple more breaths. This is going to be near the hub of the wheel. The center of you is not just an intellectual thing. It's a sensation thing. Good. And then release. So I want people that can, and sit on the floor, like I sit on the floor, stretch your arms down at your sides. Everyone stretch your arms on your sides and lift your chest. Remember, where you touch the earth is a source of grounding, especially when your life is changing. So feel where your sitting bones are, right? And feel this, the lift in the chest. Now I want those of you that can to stand up, right? So Zai, I want you to get up carefully, go behind your chair, right? Stay safe and use it for balance though, right? Feet together, Tadasana. So again, seems like a simple pose, but remember, right? Tadasana is in every yoga pose. So one of the ways that we teach universally is to show little movements near the hub of the wheel that are parts of every pose. So now, instead of just doing it, but you can do Tadasana sitting too, right? So you're hitting down, right? You're spreading your feet. So for Michael, it would be spreading his sitting bones and feeling where his feet are, right? For Zai, I want him to always choose balance, so he's got the support of the chair. But I want there to be a grounding down and a rising up through the core, right? And as you go up through the core, right, you have to have something still going down too, not just your feet. So your arms are stretching down, but not too hard. You're trying to feel the skin on your elbow pit, the skin across your palm and the backs of your knees, right? So you're trying to give more definition to the flow, the perpetual flow of the rise and the fall that we manifest as human beings, right? So Tadasana has a lot more to it. It's not just two directions, but there's grounding. So those of you that can hit down through your heels, what I like about what Julie's doing with Michael is because he's not getting the same amount of grounding on his feet. She's touching his feet to give reference. So the down gets more reference as Michael lifts up. Keep your head facing forward a little bit, Michael. That'd be great. Broaden across your chest. Soften your jaw, the inside of your mouth, but don't lose any of your will. Being more conscious and subtly aware doesn't mean you have to change your will too much. Good. And then release. So I want to take some time to so if those of you that are standing, take your feet wide. So Zai, have the chair in front of you, right? So you're going to be a little bit wider, but I want to think about, and for people that are actually doing the poses, the full poses, right? You have to still ground your legs, even though your feet are wide. So your feet are pointed straight ahead and you're rolling the inner upper thigh in and out because you're using muscular action to create the base, to create the freedom in the spine, to enhance the breath, right? And so, but what I like with Michael, if he can't take his legs wide, not a big deal, but he needs to get the sensation of grounding in his legs. So if he actually squeezes the block, extends from the inner groin out to the inner knee, and Julie, if you do touch his feet again, you show him where the ground is, right? You show him that the sensation, and that helps him balance. So now we're going to take our arms, right? And Zai, you can decide if you're safe to do both arms or just do one, right? I want you to go take your elbows up like this, because that's going to be easier for Michael, right? Instead of him trying to straighten his arms, because he's tight really here and here. And so, and notice his dad knows, just hold up lightly underneath his elbows, JD, right? So I want, don't take your arms wide yet, Amy. Be in this position, you know, like in front of you. Yep. So I want everyone to be in the position that Amy's in and Zai's in and Michael's in. I want you to like be more aware of the tips of your elbows, right? Where the tip of each elbow is. And then make sure you're lifting the sternum to actually enhance the movement of energy out through the elbows. Ground your legs to do it. So it's not just that you're holding your elbows up. You're trying to center, find the center to extend outward. And then those of you that can, straighten your arms out to the side. But know that like being able to straighten your arms is just window dressing if you're talking about the spine, right? So now come back in again to this position, refine, you know, pick a point in the center of your chest, refine the expansion, right? Ground your legs. Don't just like reach out with your elbows, reach out through your elbows from the center of your chest. Notice that changes the flow as you stand, the sensation of your legs. For Michael, the sensation of your sitting bones. And then extend out. Take your arms wide. Now, this is how we teach people with amputation. If they're missing part of their arms or legs, we actually help them know that this is as important as this. So you're getting bigger in space. So Michael's going wide, which is good, right? Zai's going wide. You can tell the left side of Zai, right, has a little hard time holding that arm up. It's good. No, you're good. Keep working, Zai. You take your arms back up wide, Zai. What are you doing? Take your arms wide. All right, good. And then turn your palms up and take your arms up over your head. Extend up. So now the expansion into more spaces. So as all of you at home are having your life restricted because of the virus that shall not be named, you still got to practice expansion. You just have to do it closer to home, closer to the hub of the wheel, right? So now you're working your legs, you're extending beyond your fingertips. But in order to actually truly reach the sky, you have to drop your shoulder blades down, right? And then extend back up from your legs to your arms. And be in more space. Feel your fingertips, right? Feel where your feet are. Feel your big toe. Feel where everything is, right? And then take your arms down and jump or step your feet back together. And in Tadasana. All right. Let's take a breath or two. Now we're going to do it again. We're going to add a little bit of position. So I do want like Michael to be able to lean over to the side a little bit, whether you put a chair there or just to make sure he doesn't fall. You might sit over on the side of him, right? So we're gonna do another standing pose. So Zai, your arms and legs wide. Take your legs wide, Zai. Amy, take your arms and legs wide. Okay. So Michael, what we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of go off to the side. So I want you to turn your left foot in, right foot out, right? I want you to feel your legs, but kind of come off to the side. So as Michael goes over to the side, right? Okay, so we're gonna do Trikanasana. So Zai, just keep your legs wide, face forward, man. Right, and then inhale on an exhalation, come down to Trikanasana. So I want Michael to come off to the side, put his arm on his mom's shoulder, or some balance over there. Yep. And extend up. So you look at what Amy's doing, rotating her belly up towards the ceiling and feeling her legs. The same, what we want for both Zai and for Michael is to change his center of gravity, right? And extend his spine. And so you work from the spine outward while you're also squeezing the block, Michael, right? So you're in and expansive. So Zai, take your arm back a little bit. Yeah, good. And then from the upper arm, as if you're reaching for the ceiling, right? I mean, from your upper arm, reach for the sky and come on up. So I like this look on Michael, right? Come on back up straight, Zai. Okay. Put your hands on your hips, on your legs, right? Then we're gonna in a second go the other way. Right? So again, we're gonna start. Take your arms and legs wide. We're gonna start from here. Right? Broaden out. Ground the legs, extend the arms. Turn your right foot in, left foot out. So we're gonna, in a sense, in a second, lean over to the other side, Michael, right? Okay, and so be in more space even as you're moving, right? Keep connected to the whole room. And then inhale on an exhalation, come on down to Trikanasana. So, yep, change your base a little bit. And now extend your spine, everything from the spine outward. Zai, I like that you're grounding on your chair. That makes me happy. But from the spine outward, you can fill the vessel by activating the awareness in your spine, right? And this is what's universal. Everyone's got a spine. Not everyone can stand up and move and twist and do all the stuff, right? So you're extending and taking up more space, feeling connected to the whole room, moving through the whole room, being in a bigger world from inside to out. Good. And then from the upper arm, reaching for to the ceiling, to the sky, come on up. Turn your feet straight ahead. And then have us take your arms down, legs together. And just stand there in Tadasana again. One of the things I love about Tadasana, and even when you're sitting straight, Michael, you're looking straight ahead, is that your outer body comes as reinforcement to your spine. So you're standing with your arms at your sides and you're hitting down, hitting up, but you're actually surrounding your spine with awareness. So like between poses that are more active, right, it really helps to do Tadasana. All right, so now I'd like to do a version of dog pose. So Amy, do down facing dog. Zai, why don't you sit in the chair if you come back? Zai, you come back and.
Oh, this is the dog.
Okay, and all I want is some back extension, right? So Zai, you can actually do it sitting in your chair and just push it on your own knees. But so you watch how much. So Amy's going to do the full pose, right? Michael's going to come forward some. He's going to put his hands or some sort on his mom's shoulders, right? And so Zai, if you sit in your chair, Zai, and lean forward a little bit, that'll be great. But what I really want is the back extension. You look at Amy's pose, right? Her legs are working, right? But her spine is getting extended. So JD is putting his hands on Michael's back, trying to get Michael to extend his spine. Right? Extend his spine. Look up a little bit, Michael. I know it's kind of weird. Your mom's right there. Your mom look down. Michael, look up. Right? All right. So yeah, there you go. That's better for your spine, Michael. That's more like down facing dog. Keep extending and getting space in that spine. Good. And then come on back up. All right. Child's pose. Go down. Good, and then come on back up. So now I want to do a little bit of a back bend, right? So Zai, I'd like you to sit in your chair. And Amy, I want you to roll up your sticky mat and put it under the bottom edge of your shoulder blades. Right? All right. So top edge of the mat hitting the bottom edge of your shoulder blades. So I want everyone if you're sitting in a chair, I want you to ground. I want you to feel your feet, your sitting bones. Again, practice the symmetry, because when you go into a more straining pose, you're going to fire through your asymmetries first. So what you want to do is be over aware, Michael, from side to side, and Zai. You're sitting in a chair, like from side to side, feel your feet where your sitting bones are. And then Amy, I want you just to lay open and let yourself be supported. But I want you to really start trying to work your legs a little bit, inner upper thigh down, and stretch out to the heels to open your chest, right? And so Michael, I want you to lean back, and Zai, don't tip over your chair, either of you, right? I want you to hit back in your chair a little bit and watch the energy come up from your legs, pushing the heels up, and then go up and over your chair, over the back of the chair, spreading the hood. So Amy, as you feel your legs, I want you to stretch out through your arms, but keep the center of the chest going up towards the ceiling, right? So you're trying to back bend, you're trying to go up and over something. So Michael, take your head back, not your head back, try to lift your sternum more. There you go. So Julie just ground on the front side of his knees. So the great thing about the McRae's is that they're used to doing this, being in this close proximity, right? And then slowly uncoil. And then Amy, sit up into Dandasana. So we're going to do a back bend again now, more from Dandasana. So what I want is arms to your sides, lift the chest, go real slow with this, Zai, like go in and up, and Michael, take it back over the chair, right? Up and over, broaden the hood of the chest, broaden the hood of the chest. People that are in Dandasana, like Amy, don't aggravate your low back. Zai, try to spread across the collarbones. Each side is equal, right? That's a really nice back bend, Michael. Okay, and then slowly uncoil. Come on back. And so now we're going to do a couple of just gentle twists. So take your right hand outside your left leg and the other hand behind you. You're sitting in a chair, right? I'm doing it right now. You can't see my upper body, but it's like I'm really, right? So I want you to ground down, lift the sternum, broaden across the collarbones. Inhale, lift up, and exhale, start to revolve. But I want you to be more aware of the upper thoracic coming forward, and that you're not just straining physically, but you're trying to open the center of your chest, right? Which makes you work from more behind your eyes, not just with your effort. And hit down with the sitting bones. Center of the chest starts to twist. Inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. Good. And then come on back to center. Be in the center. And then go the other way. Right? So get your hands grounded, right? Right? Lift the chest, inhale, lift up, start to revolve. So there's your effort, right? The strain, the physical strain. And then there's a surrender you have to do to find the center of your chest. And open it and keep inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. Good. And then come on back to center. So Amy, I want you to kind of lean forward and grab your feet if it's easy, your shins, come forward a little bit. Zai, I want you to come forward a little bit in your chair, but keep your forearms on your knees. Zai, Michael, come forward a little bit, but keep balanced. Right, so you're going inward some. You're changing the shift. Look down. You're starting to be a little bit more quiet. Hit your sitting bones down and keep extending. So Amy's coming forward, but she's still lifting her chest. For someone that can be more in the beginning of Paschimottanasana, you're watching the underside of your body. You're extending out through your heels, but you're also feeling a whole cycle from the underside, from the feet down the legs over the top of the head. Take a couple of breaths. I like the extension on Michael's back. That's good. Yep, I like the nice drop of your head, Michael, being more inward. And then come on back up. Have a seat, Amy, in simple cross legs. Gonna just sit here for a second. So before we end the class, I want you to know that this is a time where if you can support us, if you're doing this, the Kiss My Asana, and asking your friends and family to support your yoga practice, that's fantastic. And we can't thank you enough. I think that people actually also are longing to be helpful in this time, to actually help others too. And I'm very proud of when I see human beings doing what we're doing to help each other, it's inspiring. So If you want to join the Yogathon, please do. You get a whole bunch of different short videos from Mind Body Solutions for the people that join. If you want to donate, that would be fantastic. There's a donate button, hopefully. And if nothing else, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It turns out that if we get over 1,000, we're at like 919 last I looked yesterday. If we get over 1,000, we actually get treated much better by the YouTube algorithm gods, right? So just subscribing on your screen would be great. It'll just get you a notification of when we drop videos twice a week at this point. That's it. And so whatever you can do, if you just are with us today, that's fantastic. I want you to know that the best home you'll ever have for your mind is your body. And that one of the things that's going on here now is that as we have to withdraw from some of our lives, we get to re-choose how we open back up, right? This is the time to make smart choices. This is the time to let what you might be dissipating your energy and some of your activities out in your life when things resume, to recognize that, no, I'm not going to give away like that. I'm going to actually live closer to the hub of the wheel. I hope that those of you that can get outside, my goodness, this is the most important spring you're ever going to have, right? What I love about spring is that it comes undaunted. So I watch the buds start to burst and the grass sneaking out, all these things. It's like, it's undaunted. We will move forward. That's what happens. And outside is a perfect example of the fact that although we're living under a big change, most of the life on this planet is doing its work as it always did, right? And it's something to let in. So thanks so much for being on this kickoff. I hope that you stay safe. I hope you make smart choices. And I hope you realize that your center is the unchanging part. Your center is the unified part. And it is the center that will be the most compassionate. All right. Thanks so much for joining today. Namaste.
Namaste.
Spirit in me bows to the spirit in you. Dang. It's already over. I have so much more to say. Oh, well.